Is there Diet Coke?
In the refrigerator.
The best.
Taking good care of the city manager.
I need to get off my Diet Coke. Train.
Just transition to Coke Zero because it doesn't have quite as many bad things in it.
And Lakers has Coke
Oh,
Zero.
do they really?
Yeah, a lot of places don't carry it. Like, if you know, Morgan, like where I can hook me up with some Coke Zero. Like,
On
yeah, that's your new assignment.
New assignment. Love it. Other duties for the society. It's okay. I had a mayor who was in love with Diet Dr. Pepper.
again.
Have some lunch.
We're on? Okay. Thank you all very much for being here today for our October 10th LCRB subcommittee meeting. We have two main topics today, and I believe we have an hour set aside for this meeting. So I think we should be okay on time. Would you agree, Ryan?
Yeah, we should be fine.
Okay.
Lunch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, should we get underway with a roll call of counselors?
Mike Riley. He, him. Ariel Mendez, he, him.
Megan Perkins, she, her.
Thank you all for that. I appreciate it. Next, we have on the agenda approval of the July 11th, 2024 meeting minutes. Those were included as a link in the agenda.
Move to approve the July 11th, 2024 meeting minutes. Second. Do we need to vote?
We did last time.
Yeah, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you all for that. Appreciate it. All right, and then I'll hand it over to Todd Johnson for a presentation on the Midtown Crossings GMP number 2.
This is the Midtown Crossings guaranteed maximum price. During the Second Street construction package. I can go more informal, but status update, we implemented the Greenwood project in GMP 1.
Yay. And we're getting almost no negative feedback.
Evaluating that, just a short plug, there's a link there if you haven't filled out the survey. Asking for feedback on Greenwood. We've gotten quite a few responses. Trying to solicit as many different places.
Can you highlight real quick the stickers that you and Mary put out?
Yeah, so we put some pavement stickers down on the ground, so if you're out there crossing on foot, you'll see them on the sidewalk.
And it's, you can scan a QR code
Yeah,
on the
there's a
sticker,
QR code.
right? So that's an interesting, we've never done that before, so it's just like a temporary sticker you put on the pavement. So, yeah, we'll see how much we get back from that.
Yeah, and comments can be coming. And then update on Hawthorne, project's been transferred to ODOT, plans to solicit the RFP this month to initiate design. We, in a somewhat rare show of solidarity, we have identified the preferred design for Franklin, which was also what the community preferred. So that's the one we'll be going, we'll be coming back to council for the design amendment in November to fully fund through 100%. And then we'll have an open house to kind of share that with the public on December 3rd. It'll be an online only option. And then what we're here for right now, Second Street between Franklin and Greenwood, construction of that. We constructed the water line at our GMP 1. That's currently, they're currently out there making the last final tie-ins. Background on Second Street, there's an incomplete, non-existent sidewalk network. Really absent from the east side and then just inconsistent on the west side. There's an inconsistent corridor with different landscape, driveway access, lighting, utilities, not blending to a cohesive sense of place. And there's inadequate stormwater network, which under this progressive design build contract with K&E, we've been evaluating the stormwater, kind of a larger plan for Midtown. But we've certainly identified what needs to take place on Second to help alleviate some of the flooding that happens in Greenwood. What we're planning to do with approval of this GMP is, the construction on Second Street to be to reflect what's in the Bend Development Code. That includes 8-foot sidewalks consistent through the corridor, intersection driveway build-outs for increased safety of all vulnerable users. There's on-street parallel parking and concrete, which was a request we got to differentiate from the travel lanes, street trees, landscaping. We're planning for a raised pedestrian crossing at Hawthorne to promote safety, slow down vehicle speeds, and then stormwater improvements as well.
And just as a side note, the interaction at Second and Hawthorne is where we're believing the Hawthorne Bridge will touch down.
Mhm.
So the work that we're doing here will be forward thinking in terms of connecting to how the bridge is gonna connect down onto Second Street and provide that safe interaction. If somebody's flying down the bridge on a bike at 20 miles an hour, how does a car know to stop before they cross the Hawthorne intersection there?
And that's the current bottle drop, right? This is on that.
Yes, that's right at that corner. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so we are closing their coordination with them. We're closing their driveway entrance on Second. So there'll be entrance on Hawthorne, exit through the alley.
And raised crossing means the whole intersection is gonna be raised?
We're not
basically?
raising the whole intersection. No, it's just a pedestrian crossing on the south side. One of the future, I mean, when the Hawthorne Bridge comes through as well, there's gonna be kind of a more cohesive look at the corridor.
Mhm.
There may be additional elements that go in there at the intersection specifically, but this is really gonna help in that interim condition for 2-3 years.
So just the crossing going north, south.
East-west crossing on the south side of the intersection. Across Second Street.
Okay. So by the bottle drop there. on that side.
Exactly, that corner.
And can I ask another question that, Ryan, I remember when we talked about this for the design of Second Street, I think it was like back in November or something like that. There was some discussion about how to make it more pedestrian and bike friendly. And you had said, well, there would be the opportunity to try to anticipate some future changes that might make it put more emphasis on active transportation. I can imagine some of the Hawthorne Bridge intersections would raise that question. Are there other elements that you can point to that are things that we can change to anticipate that emphasis, or?
I think the three key points are at Hawthorne, at Franklin, and at Greenwood. And so those are our focuses at this point in time. Is Todd's doing a good job working with ODOT to kind of figure out how that Second and Greenwood crossing will occur where that ribbon curb sits today. And then we also want to look at making a Second and Hawthorne crossing meld better into that whole streetscape environment there. So, I mean, the plans now, like every alley and every roadway intersection has bulb outs. And so there's going to be a lot of concrete differentiation for on-street parking, but like we wouldn't normally put a bulb out at an alley, but we're going to do it at every single interaction point, at every conflict point throughout this corridor. So it's going to be very apparent to that there should be a high visibility for bikes and peds throughout that corridor. It's more so than we've ever done in any design in the past.
And the parking's not raised, right?
No, we did look at that, but there.
But it's, so you're talking about different material, so somewhat different color.
Yeah.
But it's not a.
Concrete and asphalt.
It's not like green on top of it, it's or red or something like that.
No, it's just standard concrete like you see in a lot of our roundabouts
Yeah.
versus the blacktop asphalt.
And this is using sharrows for bikes, right? It's a shared travel lane for bikes and cars in each direction, because it's just one travel lane in north.
Yeah,
south.
we're in each direction.
It's only a 60-foot right of way, so you're very limited in what you can kind of squeeze into that.
And it's two 10-foot travel lanes run in each direction, right? So it's a narrower than our traditional travel lane already, because we're 11 feet now is our standard. So from where you're gonna step off the crosswalk to get to the other side is only gonna be 20 feet. And so that'll be the shared space between a car and the bikes in each direction.
It's gonna feel tight.
Yeah, can feel different.
And yeah, and then just like we're monitoring Greenwood, if, you know, we can always work with our transportation and mobility crew if after a few months after opening this, we feel like we need to do something more. We'll connect with David and see if we can get something that we see that isn't working as intended.
And then we're gonna continue to work on the Drake and Juniper stuff on Hawthorne. We just don't have that completely figured out with how the bridge is landing. That's
You mean that second bridge that's going over Third Street?
Yeah.
That's in the future discussion, and if we need to, as there's some probably minor modifications will happen at that intersection once all that happens.
but there's still a lot of questions about like, what are we doing on that whole corridor? And funding for that as well, they're coming up, you know.
Finally on the bridge between second and first.
Yeah, well.
You want to call it the Ben High Line?
Yeah, so that's the scope of what we're doing on Second Street in a nutshell. Council check-in, just where we are currently, October 24, GMP 2, Second Street. See that design amendment for Franklin Avenue construction summer 25, although there's an asterisk with that, just how we'll coordinate with only. We'll give that performance update. One of the things, and I don't know if you want to touch on it right now, but we are getting quarterly updates, so we'll get an update in the fall. And kind of how does council want to hear that messaging? Are we going to something like this? Are we sending an email? Are we
Yeah, that was I sent you that memo from our consultant that here are all the steps we're taking to monitor Greenwood. So we're gonna package that up, but we might need to translate it away from engineering terminology to something the public can better understand. And then we've also been getting a ton of, every time we get an email, we put it in the Midtown Crossing shared email file. And so I'll have Mary and our department collect all those every quarter and try to develop some themes coming out of that to see what we're hearing over that period.
Yeah, and I think as you get that information, I can put that in the council memo and then we'll share publicly.
Yeah.
Probably in the spring or something. We'll figure out at the right time to.
Yeah, we'll do a formal like end of the year, end of the pilot.
End of the,
check-in.
in the summer.
That might be something, but yeah, the interim check-ins, absolutely. We'll share everything we got.
We're getting more positives than negatives. I mean, you're seeing it to cancel all emails right now, which is great. It's operating good.
Yeah.
It seems like I think we've survived.
Yeah, there's the unpersuadables, but.
Yeah.
And then, length of construction on this GMP 2 is about 7 months, so we wrap this up in May of next year.
And so the Franklin Avenue construction, that's not just the contract, that's actually construction.
Start construction, yeah.
And so when are we gonna be seeing
the GMP? It would be late spring, early summer for that construction package.
And Franklin, we're adding a portion of the Ben Bikeways project between 5th and 8th Street on Franklin to the KNE guaranteed maximum price contract. So that work will cover, is it Hill or Harriman?
Yeah, Harriman.
Harriman on the west, all the way over to the roundabout at 8th Street on the east. So that's a pretty intensive corridor improvement to go all that stretch.
How long is that?
So it'll take a year. Yeah. I mean, his construction complete December of 26. So we want to have it wrapped up before the end of the construction period in 2026.
I think just like we were with Second Street, we'll need to be considerate of budget. Just the impacts and what we can do there in terms of construction. Maybe not doing full road resurfacing, but neat lining, rebuilding curbs off of the existing roadway. Measures to save a little bit of money. I think at the end of the day, it's an expensive project.
Yeah, so that's a lot of big picture stuff, but what we're going to be out in front of you next week is really just the GMP for Second Street. And then there'll be a future conversation on the full funding of Franklin.
And so can I just ask one more big picture question? So if you go back to that, when are we going to get an update on the kind of final design proposal? Like that's I mean, I went to the open house, but I don't recall that we've heard anything yet back as council. Maybe you guys have on the subcommittee for Franklin.
Yeah, so we're targeting an online only open house December 3rd.
Sort of final round like this. Here's the final
design. I think we'll still be working on details. Like there's a lot of specifics in terms of we heard a lot of feedback at 3rd and Franklin and what that design looks like.
Yeah.
I think we generally know what the preferred kind of cross section is, but it's certainly the details and the crossings that we'll still be soliciting feedback on as we go through design.
And we're aiming for a November council another guaranteed maximum price to do the full design on Franklin. We don't have the full design contract in place yet. We only took it through alternatives analysis. So we'll have another guaranteed maximum price in November. And we can share the concept of what Franklin will look like with council before then, of course, but definitely that'll be a good public period.
I bring this into budget too. On the left is sort of the bigger picture of the Midtown project as a whole, which includes Hawthorne, Franklin, Second, Greenwood. On the right is specifically just talking what we've obligated so far, what we're seeking on this GMP, the 4.4 million. Previously approved design in GMP 1 is 4.5, but 8.9 right now. Franklin still needs to fit in there and Hawthorne too, so.
That's all the city money up there on the left, right? That's all our money. That's not in the grants or anything.
Yeah, that doesn't include the Hawthorne grant money. This is just the city.
Cities.
Yeah, so we could dissect this slide a million different ways and break it down by corridor, by phase. But yeah, that's the big picture. And at this point, yeah, like Todd said, we're just looking for the 4.4 to build Second Street. And then there'll be another line on this when we come back in November for another GMP for the design of Franklin. And you'll just keep seeing this build out over time.
And that 6 million still available, right, from Borough? Given from that core area, given everything
Yeah, and that's
going on there.
That's down from the original 9 million.
Okay,
So this
that's
is,
the reduced number.
yeah, so, and that will require a budget adjustment, that will be done in December, I think we're aiming for. But yeah, we're recognizing that Borough's not getting the contributions that intended, based on growth, so.
But we did have to flip around some Borough money in terms of where we're allocating those projects. And so Borough just wrote a letter to council saying they want to move forward with Second Street.
You mean cap?
Yeah, sorry.
I was gonna say, we did write a letter to ourselves.
No, sorry.
And that's actually going in front of you at the next council meeting.
We got that.
We've
already received it, right?
Yeah.
Cap letter.
The cab letter to basically make sure that cover the cost of Second Street, allocate the rest of that 6 million to Franklin. But they also want to make sure that Franklin gets constructed as well, that it gets fully funded. And that's the GEO bond and other funding sources that's doing that. That's their recommendation. So they understand the importance of that Franklin corridor.
Yeah, we can't spend geo bond money directly on Second Street. That wasn't identified as a geo bond project, but it was a cab project. And so that's where that, out of that 6, that 4.4 we're looking at is 100% from the core area.
That's not true, because we have storm.
Oh, and storm, yeah, that's true. We're
Portion of it is-
taking some of that 6.2 storm water and putting it on Second, and then using the justification that we're gonna capture it before it gets to the Greenwood undercrossing. So, good call.
And it's the water work that's currently underway on Second.
Yeah.
Which is based on what we've seen there, and it's much needed.
Oh, right, once you're digging
In terms of what you're pulling out of the ground.
Line is sitting on the rock and like it's in pretty bad condition.
Okay, I think,
So, yeah,
yeah,
that's-
and then the question slide, so, yeah. Anything we can answer?
Not discussing design, just.
I think if you have any feedback on the presentation, just so we're
Yeah.
sharing, that would be helpful. I mean, substantive issues like that should be run the regular meeting.
Yeah, and to be clear, I didn't say it earlier, but both this project and Dave's project next are both being presented to you all on October 16th. Next week.
No, I think it's pretty good. I mean, maybe, I asked about the current activity there, just to mention that how this fits with the current. Work that's already underway. I actually feel like the budget slide, because there's so many aspects of it, I almost would have liked to have it first. to say, here's the big picture,
Mm.
and then
Mhm.
we're focusing in
Narrow it down.
on this section.
Yeah, Ariel, I totally agree with you. I was just about to say that. It would be helpful to kind of start big picture and then drill down, because there are so many moving parts with this project.
And even adding in the, like, here's the, maybe not as much detail, or there's a different way to show, like, when the Franklin stuff's, you're gonna be hearing about the Franklin design and the GMP for the design part, and then the construction one, just so we can.
Yeah, we can break that down.
That stuff again. It's just, we need to hear it regularly.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Be reminded.
It's important to understand this, not only just the cost,
context.
but also, as we're talking on the tour, just the sequencing is super important.
Yeah.
Because one project's related to another, we don't have multiple closures on a corridor.
And I guess I would say it might be helpful for people to hear how they fit into the overall, core area strategy. The intention of this is to provide infrastructure that will catalyze development that has been slower than we hoped for.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I hear a little bit from developers, it seems like this is the kind of thing that is really the next step that could be a tipping point that I think we hope to see.
We're setting the table.
Maybe providing that context as kind of like, here's part of the big picture initial. Right.
This is one of the top priorities coming out of CAB. This in
Yeah.
Franklin, and then also the business association down there also sent a letter to CAB
Yeah.
with the recommendation to do Second Street.
That was their highest priority, was to get Second Street done.
Yeah, they've been waiting a long time.
Yeah, I can frame it up a little bit more before Todd dives into the project specifics, but yeah, we can talk.
Then we hope there's also some ancillary benefits, which is activity you're seeing down there with we got a fully constructed urban standard road.
Yeah, I think that catalyzing framing is important to emphasize to the community, because, there can be a kind of the narrative around, oh, you're just subsidizing developers, the big bad developers and all that. I'm like, well, this is about the long-term viability of the community, that district, its
Yeah.
importance in our overall growth plan and strategy. And
Yeah,
this is how stuff like this happens successfully in other communities, is by public catalytic investment, streetscapes, infrastructure. That's what we can do to set the table, as you said. I
That's why-
think that context is actually really important to remind the public about.
That's why we created the TIF down there too, was to build this.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was part of the MUPT purpose of the MUPT. Broadly, like, it was catalytic, and
Maybe
more often we were often losing sight of that, at least when I'm talking. Pardon?
No,
Maybe don't bring them up.
No, I understand. Don't bring them up to you. I'm not saying
district,
that.
we can talk.
But
about
even
TIF.
in those discussions,
Yeah.
when you go back to that with people, they're like, oh, there's a little more of a pause in people's heads around getting out of the subsidizing just the big bad developer.
And Ryan, there might be I think that if I'm remembering correctly, there's like a graphic that shows how TIF works in infrastructure improvements and catalytic, and it's kind of like this circular thing.
Yeah.
Might be a nice, like,
Yeah.
just visual to walk through,
Yeah.
that
okay,
more illustrative than a bullet.
okay. Great. Well, there's nothing else for Todd. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
All right, Dade, now it's your turn for the WRF facility plan.
You received an email just a few minutes before the meeting. Explain. Are you in right now? Attendee.
Oh, we just.
The water reclamation facility.
Very good. You win. Ding, 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 ding.
But is it a little bit like an ATM machine then, or is it really water reclamation facility?
Well, facility plan is a term,
Yeah,
right? Is the
yeah.
issue?
Right.
It's at the water reclamation facility, and we're doing a facility plan update.
And facility.
But you can, yeah.
It's constant kind of like state, like land use system and all that.
It's a facility plan for that facility.
Yeah.
Don't flip that.
Yeah.
Don't flip the verbiage there, right?
What is it, the redundancy department of
Redundancy,
redundancy?
yeah.
We probably
But
could,
it's not,
yeah.
it's not. So
We could call it the Water Reclamation Facility Plan Update. That helps. Yeah.
In Portland,
Yeah.
they had a Bureau of General Services, which is like their facilities. And I remember I met somebody who was a program specialist in the Bureau of General Services. And I was like,
How can you
specialize in programs.
In a general.
In a general-
I was like, wow, that is like screams.
were you like, I'm actually a generalist.
But I'm a specialist.
Like temporary state
Special.
stay, right?
Well, it looks like Dave's addressed that with a hyphen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so this is the water reclamation facility plan update. So facility plan is synonymous with master plan, if you will. So a master plan for the water reclamation facility is essentially what this is. So I'll be presenting to council next Wednesday. This is a contract with Crow Engineers to support the update to the WRF facility plan.
Dave, you were just giving like presentation.
Oh, shoot.
If you just go to on your go to view, like up on top, go to view. And then just do presentation view. I might read that little top icon there, way off to the left. It should be presentation view.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh.
That one sometimes, yeah.
Let the IT specialist handle.
Juan was here earlier.
I always tell people I feel so much more comfortable when Juan's in the room.
Yeah.
My anxiety level goes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You wanna stop sharing and try?
Stop
again?
sharing, yeah.
Eric's a generalist.
Email for like.
They.
This is great practice.
No, they just.
Right.
Brian and I went out early, we went out Saturday to go on a walking tour downtown Tampa, for a conference. And we got something late Saturday, saying they're assessing it, conferences going on, and then they said, we'll give you another update midday, Sunday, and Brian and I were. My running joke has been, we flew, both Brian and I flew across the country, or take a walk downtown Tampa and get a nice lunch at a Cuban restaurant.
Then come up.
And then come home. Right.
Really expensive date.
I hear quick.
Had a great conversation though.
Yeah.
But they.
Was the lunch worth the flight?
canceled it.
Oh, for sure. It was really good.
Right on the cancel. So I had already, like, I had pre-booked a ticket the night before just to hedge my bets.
To go home.
Yeah. But we, like, got on, and Skylar was out at NASA for a launch as well through her college. And so we were trying to, and I was gonna drive out there. So it was afterwards, it was all this logistics trying to get her.
That was weird. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the
there.
Water Reclamation Facility Plan was adopted in 2008, and that developed a 20-year capital improvement plan. A 20-year capital improvement plan encompassed the major improvements and expansions that were completed in 2020, 2021. And it's recommended that we update these facility plans on a 5 to 10 year basis for a variety of reasons, including changes in regulations, environmental regulations, to be specific policies, so city policy, and then obviously some economic changes too. This plan has not been updated since 2008, so it's very much needed.
Small events happened since then.
Yeah.
Recessions, pandemic.
So with Carollo, their contract is scoped to project forecast flow and loading on a 20-year planning horizon. We'll be evaluating existing structures, so a lot of inventorying the concrete, electrical, mechanical equipment out at the treatment facility, finding how that assimilates into any projected improvements long term. We'll be taking a lot of consideration into city strategic programs and policies. So that includes the city's community climate action plan, the strategic energy management plan, and then the resource recovery plan that was developed late last year. And then we'll be doing a really thorough review of current and anticipated public health and environmental regulatory requirements. So that consistently is changing, especially with emerging contaminants. So there'll be a lot of stress on this plan to really look in and hone in on what impacts that's going to have on our discharges, so water and solids. The deliverables, so the outcome of this will be an aggregate of all of our assessments into the 20-year capital improvement plan, and that'll be a component of the water reclamation facility plan update. We'll also hit goal number 11 in the treatment facility, public facilities plan. So that's a requirement from the state. Tentative schedule. So we plan to issue notice to proceed in November 2024. The plan will be developed over the course of winter 2024 through fall of 2025. Throughout the plan development, we plan to schedule strategic engagement with internal and external stakeholders. So internally, that'll be the stewardship subcommittee. Externally, that'll be somebody like the Department of Environmental Quality. In winter 2025, in concert with the collection system master plan, we'll be developing the 20-year capital improvement plan for the sewer fund. And then we'll be taking that capital improvement plan with the water reclamation facility plan and the treatment facility public facilities plan winter 2025. Budget.
Does that mean like end of the calendar year 25 into the beginning of 26? When you say winter 25? Is that what you mean by that? I'm just trying to understand timeframes.
Sure. Yeah, we probably could be a little bit more clear on that. So
Yeah.
winter 2025 to me is late October and December.
Sure.
Calendar.
Yeah, okay.
We can just say end of 2025.
Yeah.
They could very well know.
Our winter quarter starts in January.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, winter's on.
So budget wise, sewer fund currently has 1.525 million allocated for this project. The contract that we'll be presenting is for 1.675 million. So we have some project savings that we're going to supplement that with in the meantime. And then this is being funded by a DEQ CWSRF loan. So we'll be taking a separate amendment forward to capture the difference of 175 to bring it to 127.
What are the terms of the loan?
Terms of the loan as far as
The
Oh, for the loan?
The DEQ
So
loan.
the city
Which one of those DEQ?
gets to borrow from DEQ to.
Yes, this is a project that will follow that DEQ will fund. So the application is to them. We have not received the loan documents yet, so we don't know quite what that percentage will be. Typically for these types of projects, it's an extremely low percentage, even more so than the capital projects that they fund.
And so if we didn't have that, the city could issue debt to service this kind of program that would then be repaid through ratepayer. I mean, if we didn't get the DEQ loans, that would be the alternative, would
Correct.
have a higher interest rate.
Good, yes.
But even the DEQ repayments factored into the rate schedule?
Yes, we've already factored that in already. We planned for that as part of the budgeting projections and what that debt service would be.
But this lives in the sewer fund,
Yeah.
Mhm.
sewer rate model.
That was gonna be my question too, is what effect this has on ratepayers, and it sounds like it's already been.
It's programmed in there.
implemented.
Yeah, so that 1.5 is kind of programmed in.
Yeah, so that, when you all see the 5-year capital improvement program that we adopted budget, like this has been in that 5-year CIP for probably quite some time. So that all of our rates are always sort of baked in based on what's on that CIP. It's pretty rare that we would have something kind of come flying in. We would really highlight that for you if something was outside of what we had planned for in that 5-year period.
So future regulatory concern that you mentioned, Dave, does that include the concerns that we heard a while ago about?
Like PFAS.
PFAS?
Mhm.
Is that something that could still come in and be one of those surprises?
Not at this point. I mean,
In terms of like what the federal government's
yeah,
coming.
it's coming, we know it's coming. There's also issues around, we're trying to get, there's always issues on reuse water and what you do with that and the standard that needs to be treated to. We've been in conversations with the county and with the irrigation districts. Can we discharge? And there've been requests that have come in. Can we discharge any of our effluent into the canal, which has a whole list of questions and concerns of classification of water that goes into it. We're sending water to Tethro for land application on their golf course. Those standards always, Pronghorn, sorry, those
Has a new name now.
Cooper reserves, yeah, but those standards are always kind of ratcheting up in terms of land application, which you can do, and then also there's always rules around solid waste handling and things as well. So
Okay. So is that reuse question gonna be addressed as part of this planning effort?
Yeah,
What
so,
our options might be? There's a way.
yeah, so we'll look at the existing conditions and what impacts that would have for the treatment facilities. On a facility plan, you really baseline your facility. And then you look at those synergies or those opportunities where you can go ahead and say, I want to provide more water to a golf course or go to the canal.
Mhm.
And what concerns there would be, what limitations or constraints you would be confined to with that facility, and then what you would need to do to supply that water. So that'll really look at that opportunity and then the status quo and then potentially another opportunity. So that's what we negotiated with Corolla, was to kind of look at 3 instances.
we know,
Reuse-
we know PFAS is coming, just, but it's really starting on the water side first, but we know where I think rules can draw, not rules, but
On the drinking water
rules
side, right?
Yeah, starting on the drinking water side, but we know it's going to at some point get into the wastewater side. And it's just a matter of when EPA and DEQ start dropping draft rules around all that. But it's that conversation starting on the water side first.
And the DEQ rules have been the issue about the reuse in the canal, right? Isn't that where the issue's been about?
Yeah, they haven't been a big fan of wanting us to do that, but Mike's
Because of
Mike's
water
done a good
quality.
job over in water services I think we've with PFAS aside, I think we have good opportunities to deliver water to the
Yeah.
irrigation districts. And this report will help kind of line that out.
Seems like a huge opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
To be
We used to.
partnering.
Especially
Water
for the
regions.
junior water.
Yeah,
Right, like
right, right,
North Unit, which has a lot of the productive agricultural
Right.
lands that really needs the water, if we can help.
This project already has a loan agreement with DEQ. We just need an amendment to go to 1.7. And the answer on the interest rate, it's 0.53%.
That's crazy.
Is what we have for
Wow.
$1.525 million already. And of note, there's over $850,000 that we've received in principal forgiveness from DEQ, which is effectively a grant to help study emerging contaminants. So it's in addition to what we would have been able to fund it. We pursued it and obtained it, so we'll have a more robust evaluation of PFAS and other emerging contaminants. So something to highlight probably. Yeah. Yeah. So we have the loan agreement, we just need to amend it for that extra $175,000. That's it.
Thanks for that. I think two thoughts are, one is just to highlight some of the state assistance here, because I think it's helpful, we've been talking about what our legislative asks might be, and if this is a project that is enabled by DEQ loans or grants that help support us, that's nice to acknowledge. And then I like to think that we have some of the cleanest tap water in the country, if
we
not
do.
the world. And it seems like, we also have some of the cleanest wastewater, and that gets at what your question about reuse and reclamation is. It seems to me like a nice way to say this is how part of how we get there. Clean water going in and coming out.
We're setting the system up in theory, for potential to provide reuse as much as we can capitalize.
No.
It's the capital cost to get it back into the city and get we're not set up for purple pipes in the city right now. It's expensive to do that, but
Yeah.
at some point it's gonna make sense to get to somewhere with that water.
And there's a lot of engineering that goes behind that too, because once you change discharge points, we currently discharge to ground, so we have a water pollution control facility permit, then you switch to what's called an NPDS permit, which becomes very restrictive over time. So they have a lot of what they call like anti-backsliding rules. So once you get a permit limit, you no longer can change that. They can't become less restrictive. So then you're building a facility to accommodate whatever discharge you're putting into the canal on a long-term basis. So
The benefit of switching is.
we would just, kind of look at that triple bottom line, if you will, of like, this is good for the community. How much is the city willing to do? And that's something that we would bring forward as we migrate through the plan and come up with those decisions and talk with the stewardship subcommittee on what direction and obviously what leadership wants to look at on a long-term basis.
Well, that sounds good too.
But you might be in theory, you might be over treating water if you're just putting it into the ponds. That's because once you get to that, like if we're gonna start doing reuse in a serious way, then the whole system, the whole facility is set up to do that regardless of where that water's going. Does that make sense?
And a good plug for tours. Have you all been out to the water reclamation facility for a tour?
It's been quite a while.
It might be a really nice, we tried to get it on the CIP. It's just so far out there. It kind of deserves its own standalone.
We need a good
visit.
conversation on bug condos.
And actually, the ponds are, once you go out there going to the ponds, it's a really a popular place for birders too. It's surprising to see how much that's grown and how many folks are out there.
You can see how close the NUID canal is. It's right there.
Right there.
It's just.
I think it'd be super helpful for us to see it. If
Yeah.
It's really good.
That's you and Ben to top the digester, 100%. Seriously, see them all the mountains, everything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really
yeah.
good up there.
Just might hold your nose a little bit, depending on what you're.
A landfill. I used to work at the landfill and the views were fantastic out there. All the eagles.
Okay, other feedback?
Just know this is one of the most important facilities the city has. It
Yeah.
usually goes, shh. You're usually quiet about, but this is one of the largest and most important facilities we have in the city.
Say that all.
We do, but this one's pretty critical mass in terms of the overall system. And you don't want to get calls about this thing not working correctly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I think a tour would be great. Wondered, what happens if everybody flushes the toilet at the same time? Or
Someday, that's the design.
flushable wipes, really flushable.
Well, be careful what questions you ask and what rooms you go into. That's all I'm gonna say. Go to that facility.
Bring your nose.
Since we have, we'll end the meeting, but if we have a little, Kate is here, we're kind of in the process of designing our council orientation, which will start right after the election, you remember,
Yeah.
Mike and Ariel, that we're gonna go through that. We'd love to get your feedback. So while we have you, we can end the meeting and, because one of those, we might be able to schedule a tour as part of that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, is there anything else for the LCRB subcommittee today? Okay, we should adjourn at 12:47 PM. Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you.
We're gonna reconfirm when we're on.